Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Astrology. I'm Megan. I'm here representing the Academy of Logic and Light, and we're a community educational platform that provides a safe space for people to practice their spirituality without being indoctrinated. We have monthly meetups here in the Salt Lake Valley on Sundays, the third Sunday of the month. Our next one is this upcoming Sunday. It's a crystal exchange kind of for the holiday season. So I'm so excited. We'll have a little bit of like educational information about crystals, and then we'll do the exchange. And I'm so excited. And then we're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and we have a Facebook group all under Academy of Logic and Light. You can also find us online at academyoflogicandlight.org. We have a Patreon as well if you'd like to support us over there. And if you're interested in teaching with us, you can reach out on the social medias, or you can email us at academyoflogicandlight@gmail.com. So those are all the ways that you can interact with the Academy if you're interested in things we're doing. Right now, we have our teachers, Elle and Julie, here with me. They'll be teaching astrology today and, continually. I'm really excited for this upcoming year. I know that our astrology classes specifically are going to have a little shift. So we're going to be doing Monday evenings, Monday night astrology, everybody. So tune in. I'm super excited. And yeah, so that'll be happening in January. So we still have one more coffee and astrology and coffee on Tuesday. And then we're going to take a break for Christmas, but we'll release something special for you guys. And then next Tuesday, the 26th. And then we'll be switching to Monday nights in January. So yay, I'm so excited. If you're interested in finding out anything else about us, we've got all of our links down below. And yeah, give us a like and share this video. Help us get the word out about what we're doing. And yeah, we're a lot more than just astrology, but that's the first class we've got going. Perfect. Well, I'm just going to roll an intro and then turn the time over to our wonderful teachers, and we'll see you on the other side.
Good morning. Happy Sagittarius new moon and 12/12 portal day.
Sagittarius new moon. I'm on fire. I'm like ready to embark on new endeavors and excited, and I'm like learning so much about so much right now. It's insane.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm just like diving into like all the things. Sorry, I had to pull my chart here. My charts for today. Pluto.
So Pluto.
We made it through all the signs, all the planets, teaching the house systems and how it all works. But man, Pluto, how exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I can't believe we've done 36 weeks. With very exciting things to come for 2024.
I'm really excited for doing this at night. I promise. Well, I guess it depends on my energy on a Monday night. But my energy at night is so much better than like 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, hi guys, like welcome.
Yeah, I know. And I gave up coffee, so I'm like, okay, well, this is a little harder in the morning. So yesterday I had my first half of a cup of coffee in 11 days, and honestly, I feel really good.
Were you super buzzed?
Well, I had like a kind of a heavy lunch, so I was like, I kind of needed the coffee to like help me continue through my day. So I used it in my benefit instead of just as a crutch, which is kind of what my goal was. I started detoxing things. I'm like, anything that like I feel like I've been using as a crutch, I just want to eliminate and find what my new baseline is. And then I can reintroduce things as I want. So I'm going to probably keep on with that until the new year, because I just didn't want to feel shitty in January, like starting the new year.
Yeah, no,
I already detoxed, and
I'm detoxing right now.
It's rough. The migraines were the worst.
Yeah, but I will. Coffee's my next thing. I've completely cut all alcohol out of my life, so I'm drinking coffee, water, and kombucha. So that's
ooh,
yeah. So
I'm a lemon hot water, and then a lemon bubble cold water.
I love that. I love
Very
that.
exciting.
We should do a whole class because you have so much knowledge on like things that are, you know, beneficial for the body, like lemon water. Like a lot of people don't even know. Like that's pure magic in a cup. Lemon and water, simple, easy.
It's so good for you. It's just like all of your organs are so happy. And I actually feel like I have a lot more energy since I cut coffee.
Really.
And I haven't had red wine in over a week. I cut out most processed foods. Yeah, it was a really, really rough first 7 days, I'll tell you.
But look at you go. You look amazing and you seem like you feel amazing. So that's
all that matters.
That's all that matters.
That's the goal. I like actually have like a certification health coach, and I'm like, I need to like start living by the standards that I'd like to live to.
Yes, I love that for you. All right. So
Pluto, we've been waiting for this one.
this one's fun.
All right. So Pluto is the planet of awesome power, but is a power that we find largely inexplicable and difficult to understand. And obviously in this group, we will be talking about Pluto and its associations. I think we have some Pluto lore, and then we talk about Pluto retrograde, which will be happening next year. It'll be bouncing back and forth from Aquarius to Capricorn next year. I Googled that. Cheat sheet is the planet is the what type of energy, the sign is the how do you use the energy, the house is the where, and the aspects are the dynamics. Today we're covering the planets and the signs, and then next week we'll cover the house and the aspects. If you have any questions, tell us where your Pluto sits, what house it sits in, and then we can answer any questions and chat about it at the end.
Yeah.
This is a lot to read, but do you have something better to say than this book? Like is boring me now.
Oh no. Yeah. So I mean, I can just kind of go into Pluto. It is. I think of Pluto as the planet of like demolition, tearing shit down, and then rebuilding. It's, you know, Saturn is really, when you think of Saturn, it pushes us through things. We go through the shit, you know, it's like hard, but like it changes you in a way of like understanding and like, you know, evolving your human. Pluto is very similar, but it's the most hidden. It's the farthest away. It really brings out all the hidden things, maybe things that you don't like about yourself or that you're embarrassed by. Truly very hidden, even like subconscious kind of energy of like what's hidden and you may not even realize that it's hidden. It's all about transformation. So when you think of Pluto and how it affects your chart, again, this isn't so much of a personality trait as it is like a generational thing, but it does, I would say, of the outer planets, it does kind of have a little more to do with the personality because it's what you hide the most. It's your secrets. It's also how you transform, how you fall apart and come back together. I mean, it shows significance in that. And it also takes, I mean, Pluto is the slowest moving planet. It can be, what is it, like 11 to 30 years in a sign? It just depends.
Yeah. I was like trying to do math last night and I was like, this is crazy, actually.
Well, and it's interesting because it really doesn't have a time in the each house. Like, I like things that are like consistent. Okay, this is 10 years. It goes through the house every, 2.5 years. It switches houses. I like, for me, that makes sense. And it's like easy to calculate. Pluto is its own little beast. Like, it's like, I do whatever the fuck I want. I'll stay here for 30 years. Or I'm here for 10, like it does what it wants. And it's just fascinating to me. I think that just the simple fact that we haven't even made it through an entire, like all the planets through Pluto. Like there are people, Aries, Pluto, people do not exist in this day and time. Like
there's no way, unless you're a vampire.
Or something. Yeah, it's non-existent. They don't exist. They're not alive anymore. They're way gone. They're probably just books that we read about certain and people and the time frame of the things they went through. You think of like empires that were torn down and reconstructed and how they were reconstructed. It really depends on what sign Pluto was in during that time. So it's very fascinating. I mean, I'll go through all the signs of Pluto. But another thing that I kind of, for our generation, are you a Scorpio, Pluto?
Libra.
Libra, okay. So you are kind of that generation of, rebuilding in a different way than my generation, obviously. Libra and Scorpio are very different. I feel like my generation, and the only reason I can touch on this is because I've experienced and I've seen it, because my husband is also my generation. We were kind of the generation that were taught changing. I don't want to say millennials, but changing and not feeling like you have to conform in this life is kind of where we started to thrive. Our parents were the parents that were kind of like, okay, well, you don't have to maybe do this, or maybe college isn't right for you or whatever. Whereas like, if you think about years past, it was like, if your dad was a banker, you were just expected to be a banker. If your mother was a homebody and stayed home with the children, that's kind of what you expected. And so you look at these different energies of generations. Think about like back in the day when it was like, there were kings, and like if you were the son of a king, firstborn, I believe, you were expected to be the king, to take over that one day. So that was just like generational differences of like what the expectation was then versus what the expectation is now. How we've shifted and how we've evolved has a lot to do with that Pluto energy and how it shows up in each generation. So as we evolve, we change, and we're only changing more. So is Pluto in Sagittarius now?
Yes, I believe. Hold on one sec. It's in Capricorn right now.
Is it?
Yeah, and we have one more year of it in one more year in Capricorn, and then we go into Aquarius, I believe. Yeah, so.
Okay. So see, it just shifts and it changes whenever, like I said, whenever. It can stay in Pluto for as long as it takes for it to. I'm actually not, this is shame on me for not knowing this. I don't know what causes it to stay so long in certain signs. Maybe there's more work to be done there. More secrets need to come out. More energy needs to be exposed or revealed, because it does, shine light on the darkness. So I'm not sure if that's why I should know that, but I really never looked into it until I just said it. So again, through the houses, I think the houses are my favorite with Pluto, because it really tells you where in life, what area is it that you're the most secret or hidden, or where you have to rebuild the most. The signs can give you definitely some energy of Pluto, and the aspects will really be huge with this. So if you have a Scorpio Pluto and you're a Scorpio Sun, when you think of that, they're the same. They're conjunct, so they're exactly the same. How you transform, and the things you go through in your lifetime, and the secrets, they're very aligned. They can create a positive. This would be something that I would say a positive conjunction, because you really understand the transformation that you're making. It's not as scary. It flows a little more evenly than like someone say with a Libra Sun and Scorpio, Pluto. Myself, it doesn't flow. The secrets are harder when you do rebuild. It's not as easy of a process, because you have those Tarian things going against you versus like your Sun, which is just a little more challenging aspect for the energy of Pluto. So that maybe made sense, maybe didn't, but we're going to get into aspects. But the aspects, I'm just trying to explain that your whole chart really affects your Pluto, especially when it comes to the sign. And so, just keep that in mind when we're going through what a Pluto, an Aries Pluto can look like, or a Taurus Pluto can look like. Look at your other placements in your chart. Look at your Sun. Does it square it? Does it trine it? Does it flow? Is it the same element? Remember, the same elements mean that they trine, that they flow. If it's, opposite, they're definitely going to have a little bit more of an issue. Sometimes they might meet up and one might provide what the other one is lacking, vice versa. So, you have to really look at your chart as a whole with Pluto especially, but we're going to go through and we're going to, presume with the same energies of how we've been doing with the signs, and then we'll do houses next week. But the houses are where it shows up, and I think that's probably my funnest, the houses, because I like
And we'll go out of 2023 with a bang.
Where are you going to be exposed at?
Yeah, live.
Also, yes. Coming to you live. I love that we ended on like the last, like, how crazy is it? We did not plan
this.
Aligned to where our last planet literally is our last episode of this year. So
it's wild. We couldn't plan it better. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Fun facts about Pluto wasn't very surprising. Scorpio and the 8th house. Mystery. Detriment is in Taurus. The element was water. Time spent in each sign. I mean, literally, it was a wild ride out there. It's an about, a big about, underline about. Pluto was found. My cat's having like a little asthma attack. You're okay. You're okay, Betty. I've been giving him meds for it.
He says, I hate Pluto.
You're okay, buddy. Pluto was found in early when Hitler, Einstein, and Freud were all working with invisible energy to destroy or to create. The planet only moves 3 to 6 degrees in a year, and it took on an average years to pass through. Takes on average years to pass through a sun. I don't know. We look to see what house it is to determine where you have passion and a deep need for transformation. The influences are freedom, change, chaos, the unexpected, and genius. And Scorpio qualities, as we know, intense, investigator, and sexual. The 8th house qualities are transformation, trust, and intimacy.
Taxes.
Ooh.
The IRS.
Basics of Pluto are instinctive, mysterious, power that cannot be seen, transformation, passion, compulsion, unconscious, Hades, and the underworld. Viewing Pluto in your life, this remote planet brings a deep thought process and a vast amount of energy. When focused, it heals. When unfocused, it destroys. Archetypes associated with Pluto: underworld, god and goddess. Themes are death, rebirth, transformation, binding, destruction, the subconscious, destiny, life cycle, intensity, triumph, absolute power. A lot for a tiny little planet.
So far out there, but power is a really big one. When you look at where your Pluto is in your chart, it can be where you have a power struggle. You know, Leo, you may struggle with being in charge and being number one, and like, you know, that being really important to you, but it may take you a while to get there. Whereas Taurus, you know, you think of that energy, it's like you may have a power struggle in your finances and how your moral values align with who you are. Like, I know a lot of people, this gives me like Pluto energy and Taurus, and I'll go in it, but since it's on my brain, I won't remember it once we get to Taurus. I know a lot of people that like judge, and obviously we judge because that lives within us, right? But this is such perfect energy. They judge people based on their moral character when they possess those characteristics themselves. Like someone who's like, oh, I can't stand men that think of women this way, and they're judging because it's morally wrong. This isn't like a tangible thing. This is more of like they think of women this way, but instinctively, or they have that characteristic in them that they don't like about themselves, and that's why they're judging other people. That is like a Taurus, because the moral value is just unpleasant or gross to them. I've heard a lot of men kind of judge off that, but then once I get to know them, I'm like, you actually kind of view women like that. You just would never say it. You don't put it out there. So that's Taurus, Pluto energy. I mean, not that we'll really ever know because they don't exist, but back in the day. All right. So Aries, Pluto energy. When you think of Aries, you think of self, you think of someone who's very has strong willpower, very active. And then Pluto again is a place of power, a place of secrecy. So this could be that you possess certain energies, but you hide them, or it can be like really hidden, or it can be like over exalted. So if you have an Aries, which you don't, But and Aries Pluto, I would assume, because I don't know, can't. This is why I love astrology, is I can study things based off of people's placements and, kind of go off that. But I don't have anything to go off of. And that's what I was saying. I went like a few episodes back. I was like, I'm excited for Pluto, but there's certain things that I'm like, I just feel like we need more understanding because we haven't seen it in our lifetime. But when you take Aries energy and you really look at Pluto energy and what it possesses, secrecy and the tear down and the restructure, I mean, just channel all the Aries energy in that. That's part of how you study astrology, is taking one sign and taking a planet and seeing how they align. I mean, Aries, god of war, with, tearing down and rebuilding. I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. That's how it happens. I'm sure there were a lot of when Aries was in Pluto, a lot of wars were going on, a lot of tearing down and a lot of restructuring. So I'm not a history major, and history is probably, I wouldn't say one of my weakest subjects, but it's not one of my strongest. So I don't know what was going on in 1822 to 1851, 53. Like, I don't know. So if you have any fun facts that is going on in this time and you want to throw it out there, I can do a little analysis on that. So just if you're watching and you happen to know what was going on in 1822, I do not.
This gives us a little bit. The book was obviously you'll see where the book stopped because it's written a long time ago, but they had a couple of fun facts for 1822 to 1851.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, this was when the first railroad was introduced in America. The struggles of supremacy to acquire colonies, particularly notable that England, which is specifically an Aries country, achieved world ascendancy during Pluto's transit in Aries, becoming an empire on which the sun never set. I'm like, who wrote this? I actually just started hating this book during Pluto.
It's been so good now.
Yeah, it's giving me what I need, but we need an upgrade. This book is old. Yeah, basically a strong sense of individuality, recklessness, egotism are negative effects.
And one of the things too with I lost my train of thought. It literally just went away.
I hate that.
Self. That was what I was saying. Self. Aries is about self and physical health, and so I think that this is something I see in my mind. I imagine somebody who works out and is fit, and then something happens, they get an injury, or and then they have to rebuild that muscle and redo that over again. They get torn down, and they have to refigure their whole lives again. It's a very physical way. I would imagine a very physical body, some sort of maybe mental, but more, I would say that's probably more Gemini rebuilding, but I would definitely say someone who injured a lot and has to rebuild a lot, or until they really learn that or get rid of that. And maybe there's some guilt or embarrassment about that. I think of people that maybe have to go in a wheelchair for a year. I know so many, and it's mostly men. I don't really, maybe I've just never had this conversation with a woman. They're like, oh my gosh, I would just, if I lost my legs, I would just not live anymore. I'm like, what? They're like, what would I do? I'm like, I don't know, but live, you could figure it out. But that's a really big deal for a lot of people if they were to lose, and I get that. It would be such a pain in the ass. But you meet people that are like, yeah, I lost both my legs, and they're playing in basketball tournaments with wheelchairs, and they're doing different Olympic sports in their wheelchair. And that, I would say, is probably Aries Pluto energy, because they have that strength to rebuild, and they push through, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's maybe embarrassing, or some hidden fear, or this whatever you have, they overcome that. I would say that's Aries Pluto energy.
And we won't see it Pluto won't be back in Aries, I believe, until 2068, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's going to be a minute.
268 years to go through each sign. That's a ball number. It's something you don't see all the signs in your lifetime. You just want.
Yeah. There you go.
Taurus, Pluto energy. Again, not one that we've seen, but I would say that this one is you think of Taurus energy, you think of beauty, Venus ruled Taurus, luxury, pleasures. Again, this I kind of went off of my tangent about men or women judging people based on their moral views when they probably possess something very similar. It's kind of just one of those things that it's like they really hold their values very Taurus. Their values are very important. Who they are, their character, very important. When it's in Pluto, there's a lot of like depth there and secrets there that I feel like could get shown to the world. Like, I'm trying to think of like a good example of someone who's like really preaching against something, but then they get caught doing it.
Oh, every religious leader and politician.
I know, right? I'm just trying to think of a specific person in a specific instance, but it's just that kind of energy. It's that with pleasure and luxury, like you might find that you build financial wealth and then it gets taken away, and then you have to rebuild financial wealth and it gets taken away. I mean, it's just the process of tear down and rebuild. And when you think of Taurus and possessions, that's like probably one of the best examples of this kind of energy. Taurus and Pluto is that you're constantly building up. You might be very successful, but then you might get it all taken away and then you have to rebuild that wealth. So it's, I would think this would be very frustrating.
Yeah. As far as like the history parts of it, it was Pluto in America. The bloody Civil War was fought over the question of slavery, whether one human being could be property, be the possession of others. The wealthy exploited the poor, still happening. Child labor flourished, still happening. The have-nots endured lives of misery and hardship. During this era, Karl Marx formulated his revolutionary theories based on an elimination of class systems and more equal distribution of wealth. Pluto and Taurus saw capitalism finally triumph over the last vestiges of feudalism and virtually take over the world. The planet's personal influence gives its natives determination and endurance. Seeks stability and often are obsessed with material achievements. Capitalism.
At its finest. This is where it started.
Yeah, now we're in the late stage capitalism. The last stage.
The last, final and last.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gemini, now we're approaching a little bit more, I don't know anyone from 1912, but it's, probably not possible, really, honestly. You'd be like 110, maybe in parts of the world where they eat better and
the blue zones.
The blue zones, yeah, I was gonna say. So this Saturn again, we've gone through what it is. Gemini, when you think of Gemini energy, communications, technology, siblings, childlike behavior, fun, intelligence, intellectual. You think of that kind of energy, and then you put it in the sign, the planet of tearing down, rebuilding. I have my notes here, but I'm trying not to look down my notes. Power, the power struggles, where there's secrets, things like that. This might be someone who really lacks or time of communication lacking, and really saying things that aren't true, being deceitful, but then them coming to light, this really a time of being exposed for things for really what they are. Also, technology could be something that really transforms through this. It could have been that they started, I don't know, when was the technology first originated? Telephone?
Oh, this is it. Yeah, that's the little history facts I have.
Oh, fun. Okay, I didn't read these, so I'm just trying to I feel like the telephone was around this time. So
yeah.
I'll go to that.
Pluto and Gemini revolutionized the way information reached the masses. This was the era when newspapers came into prominence. The phonograph, the photograph, reproduce sounds and visual information for wide use by the public. First motion pictures were invented and gave rise to new industry, which flowered when Neptune transited the theatrical sign of Leo, which we learned about 2 weeks ago. Gemini rules the airwaves, so it's not surprising that during Pluto's transit, during the telegraph, the radio, the telephone came into being. This era also introduced 2 new forms of travel that revolutionized the world: the airplane and the automobile. When Pluto is in Gemini, the planet's personal influence gives its natives inventive, restless mind that seeks change and freedom from old restrictions.
Yeah, I was going to say, you build ideas, you tear them down, and you rebuild them. This is more of something that you just think and restructure and rebuild, like on an intellectual level, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So Gemini, again, we don't really know anyone. If you do know someone, please share. All right, Cancer. So Cancer and Pluto. This one I would definitely say is like home life, restructure. Cancer also signifies like inheritance of land, buildings, things like that. So this is kind of one of those placements I would say kind of flows. I would say it's probably could be positive, given the fact that Pluto is kind of water energy, Cancer is water, and they kind of they trine in a way because it's also ruled by Scorpio, so it's kind of it really kind of flows well. So this is like the time I feel like building a lot of buildings, making creating cities, like they're thriving, they're building, because there's that like why am I like not thinking today? I'm struggling through this. Real estate and things like that really could be inherited down, because this is a first generation. They're building, they're taking, like, land is being purchased. There's a lot of that going on here. And so anytime I see, well, I haven't really seen, I don't think actually, no, I haven't, Cancer in Pluto, I would say this is very an emotional time, maybe processing or working through emotions. Like I was going through Gemini, it's intellectual. This is more feeling, like breaking down feelings and restructuring. Maybe this is when like counseling really came about, or therapy, or things. I don't really know when that came about, but this could be, I feel like, a start of that, because people in this generation definitely probably had some trauma and some things, and this is kind of that nurturing, bring them out and let them express feelings, because before and even during this time it might have been very challenging to express feelings, and probably was very looked down upon, weak. They were thought of as weak. So take your Cancer energy with what we gave you with Pluto. That's kind of what this ball of fun would be.
Ball of fun.
Emotional. Because I don't like emotions. I'm like, it's probably an emotional time. Probably wouldn't be my time to shine, that's for sure.
Yeah, this one was kind of an interesting one. So I have also a hard time with like history, because the time isn't real, but this one was weird. The sign brought upheaval to family life in America. By the millions, people left the country to settle in towns and cities. The negative side of Pluto and Cancer was shown in the hideous loss in World War I and the preparation for World War II under the leadership of militaristic Nazi Germany, a nation that espoused glorification of the homeland. Our country and our way of life, the Cancerian values, were imperiled. Cancer is the sign of agriculture, which that was new information for me. During Pluto's transit in the 1930s, we saw the great drought and the misery of the migrant farm workers forced from their land. We also saw the rise of industrial unions formed in violent struggles against the power of great corporations. When Pluto is in Cancer, the planet's personal influence gives great intense motions and creative imaginations. Negatively, it produces a deep resentment of other people's good fortune.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. When inheritance, I feel like that can be great for the person that's inheriting it, but it's also like, if you think of families that gifted things to certain children and not others, it also could create like a lot of tension and anger. And so, Cancer, I love Cancer. But you have to think about it. It's ruled by the moon. And when you think of the moon and the emotions that go into stake, like when you look at the wars, like the Nazi in Germany, things that were happening there, that was purely based off like hatred and emotion.
Yeah.
There was no, better way to say that other than ran by emotions. And it's insane to me that like things like that even happened in our history. But I mean,
I
it
know.
just shows how far we've come along, because I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's
But we
it's a
get
wild
smarter
one.
into the day, so I don't really know how what's happening now that later generations are gonna look back and be like, how did they not see that? And we're just like, you don't know if you don't know, you know?
Yeah, for real. We're letting what somebody said the other day. I know they said it was like this planet's being run by a bunch of like old frat boys that like are still living in this old time. It's just like a mess. The pollution, like they don't care. It's just
They don't
crazy.
care. It's wild. But it's changing and it's shifting, thank God. Because I
Yeah.
think that for us as a human race to survive, we have to evolve and we have to change. And like there's so much that I don't get my kids do. And I'm like, I mean, not this doesn't have to, they're not out there trying to save the world yet. They're still young, and but the things that they're interested in, that I'm like, I know my parents were like, why does she watch this? Why does she into this? And I watch my kids, but I think it's all part of the evolving. I mean, there's got to be good with the bad, but it's just all part of the evolution and how we're evolving. And it's fascinating to watch my younger kids do weird shit. I don't get it, but I know it's a generational thing. I know I'm not supposed to get it because my
Yeah.
brain doesn't work that way. So just fun fact. All right, Leo and Pluto. So Leo is self. It's ruled by the sun. It wants to be the star of the show. There could be some real power struggles here. I feel like, Leo is very powerful. It's a strong sign. And when you have this in Pluto, I feel like it could really struggle and make you maybe not shine as bright as you feel like you should be. It could or not until you're ready. Like you might have to go through some things, or you become like the star of the show and then you have to get, torn down and brought back up. You think of like, I know this isn't hers because she's obviously not this old, but you think of like people that rebrand themselves, right? Like they are on top of the world. They're amazing. Like Britney Spears, at one point, she was like the star of the show. She was the highlight. It was like her and Christina Aguilera were really it at that time. Shit happened. You don't see Christina Aguilera going through shaving her head and going crazy. She didn't really get torn down in that same aspect as Britney did. Britney really went down. And there's a lot going on with Britney now. And I feel like, I don't know that she's rebranding herself in the best way, but she's coming back up. Like I'm seeing Britney more, and even though it may not be a positive rebuild, it's still her coming back up. Like she could have just disappeared. Like who's someone that we don't even hear of anymore? Michelle something. I don't even know her last name, but she has. I don't even know where she is or what she's doing, but I know I know what's going on in Britney's life. Like, again, it may not be positive, but she's, surfaced again. So that's like being torn down, falling off, and then coming back, rebuilding. And so, again, take the Leo energy of self creativity. You might struggle in areas of creativity or be super creative, and then maybe there's things that you want to create that you don't feel are worthy or you don't feel are important, and so you don't, but then eventually you get to that like empowered stage where you do. Maybe that's the rebuild for you. But I'll let Julie kind of read the historical things.
Master Leo, U.S. entered World War II and helped the Allied powers win victory over Germany and Japan. Leo is also a magnanimous sign. After the war, the U.S. gave money and assistance to the defeated countries in order to help rebuild them. On October 24th, 1945, the United Nations was formed, where each country would express its point of view and attempt to work out its differences with other nations. The Korean War was fought to save a nation from aggression. Pluto in the power sign of Leo also points to abuse of power, and during this era, people's lives and careers were crippled and destroyed by the rise of McCarthyism. When Pluto's in Leo, the personal influence is to emphasize love of power, a domineering ego, and self-aggrandizement. But it also confers on its natives strong pride and a will to prevail despite obstacles. There's a tendency towards arrogance, selfishness, and sensual pleasures. The generation that was born when Pluto transited Leo introduced the era of pleasure principle. There's also strong emphasis on mass hero worship of personalities in the media.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could see there being very power struggle of who's in charge and who makes rules kind of thing with Leo.
Yeah.
And Leo doesn't budge.
No, so stubborn.
So stubborn. Like Taurus gets like stubborn, like constantly. People are like, oh, Tauruses are so stubborn. I'm like, have you met a Leo? I mean, they're both fixed signs. It makes sense, but man, they don't budge. So that's
Yeah.
kind of it too. Just to throw in there. I find this very interesting because of the time frame. I mean, the 50s to the 60s, and then we're into the 70s, the era of free love and like hippies. But we did learn that it was an experiment gone wrong, so it wasn't like this hallucinogenics came about just randomly. The government was trying to, I guess that makes sense. They were trying to conduct an experiment, and they created a bunch of hippies. It's like the free, right? Isn't that how it all kind of works in a roundabout, very not actual, but in a kind of sort of way happens. So Virgo, this could be a real struggle with maybe there's a desire to be organized and to be like perfect, and it just doesn't work out. Or there could be that you perfect and then it gets torn down, you have to re-perfect. And this could be like health, and this isn't like physical as much as Aries energy. This is more mental. It just has more of a seriousness to it as well. Like this is more of a serious. Virgo and Pluto is very maybe you've really built this reputation for being serious and somehow and respected. I think Virgos love to be respected, and that Virgo energy is like, oh, I have my shit together, it's all aligned, it's perfect, because ultimately that makes them feel good, but they love that people admire them for that. So that could be, you could show a messy error, messy time, and you lose that respect, and you're trying to rebuild that and show that you are responsible and you are perfect, because Virgo is perfect. But yeah, so Virgo and Pluto is that kind of energy, rebuilding to perfection. And also it could be a health struggle. This might be that it's really trying to show you, I would say something along the lines of like someone who's obese that has to work and work, like really push themselves mentally. Because I know it's obviously physical, but it's lack of physical, but it's also a mental thing. I don't think that people become obese just because they like to eat. There's something mentally there that maybe like depression, they don't get up and work off the food that they're eating, then they're overeating, or they're eating for comfort. Like that's kind of just something that popped into my head sometimes. Like I said, these things just like come down and like, oh, I should say this, and that may resonate, it may not. But definitely Virgo and Pluto can be I'd say self-undoing. They really mentally, like Gemini with that Mercury energy, they really probably have to build themselves back up on a intellectual level, not so much emotional, but more of like maybe they get really down and they get depressed, and then they have to work through that and bring themselves back up so that they have that positive, more structured perfection to their perfection of life.
As far as excuse me, as far as the history part goes, the sign of service to others, Kennedy and Johnson administrations were committed to social programs. This was the era of the Great Society of Achievement in the fight for civil rights, and in the mid-1960s, a growing feminist movement. In this sign of health, some of Pluto's influence on its generation are a new awareness of toxic food additives, an emphasis on holistic medicine, and concern over pollution in the environment. Virgo being a sign of practicality, of putting facts to useful work. During Pluto's transit in this sign, the two world superpowers were actively involved in space exploration. In 1969, a human being first walked on the moon, supposedly. The dark side of Pluto's power was shown as the U.S. was plunged into turmoil by the assassination of John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. Southeast Asia had an unending war in Vietnam, which not only took a toll on its lives and misery, but also divided the nation emotionally. When Pluto's in Virgo, the planet's personal influence bestows a profound analytical quality to the personality. People under this influence seek perfection, but are also suspicious and ready to find fault with the world around them.
Paranoid. You're paranoid, Virgo and Plutos. I'm sorry, but you are.
Yeah, I think a lot of our parents were born in this generation, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Libra. I mean, this one, from the 70s into the 80s makes sense. And as we get into the 80s and it gets more like Scorpio energy where they're like black and dark and heavy metal, all that makes sense to me. But when you think of Libra, you think of peace, tact, beauty. They're ruled by Venus. So this was a time of like maybe exposing things that appeared to be beautiful that weren't beautiful. Really, I would say there's a conflict here with trying to make everything peaceful. You know, not everything is peaceful. We try, we want to. Maybe you accomplish peace and then it gets torn down and then you have to rebuild, or mend relationships or friendships and different things like that. I would say Libra and Pluto is probably a more challenging one, just because, like I was saying, Libra energy is very different than Pluto energy. It's all about like harsh. Pluto is very harsh and direct and can be very, challenging, where Libra doesn't like any of those things. Libra likes soft and again, it's ruled by Venus. It likes beauty. And so there is a challenge there when you have a Libra, Pluto, and the things that you go through, it might be very difficult in a way of like, you want things to just to look and feel like they're flowing and you want it to be happy, and it's just not. So I would say this one really struggles with the Pluto energy, because the things that don't happen the way that they should or the way that is aesthetically pleasing can be very discomforting for a Libra.
I feel that. Yes.
You're on the tail end of that too, because you're approaching Scorpio. So I feel like yours, and again, a generation of like, the wife looks picture perfect and she's at home with the children and the husband works, and there's this facade of like the perfect family life and what it looks like and what your home should look like. It's probably when the housing doubled. I don't know. I'm just gonna let you.
Yeah.
Just during that time, things appeared to be perfect that weren't.
Yeah.
Or pretty beautiful Venus energy.
That Venus energy. So this is an interesting time, since you said like I'm at the tail end of this Libra. But if you look at my chart, it says I'm literally 29 degrees into Libra. So it's like more of an evolved Libra, if you will.
Yes. You're a little more okay with shit not looking pretty.
I mean, I really like it. Libra is a sign of peace and harmony. In the Pluto's journey through Libra, the agonizing war in Vietnam finally came to an end. On a larger scale, two enormous hostile world powers, the U.S. and the People's Republic of China, moved towards peace and a new rapprochement in their relationship. Pluto in Libra also indicates a deep concern for law, balance, and justice. The era of Watergate, with its shocking revelation of corruption, ended up bringing new order to government and restoring the balance of power between the executive branch and Congress. A consequence was the adoption of the Freedom Information Act. Libra emphasizes egalitarianism and equality. Pluto's transit saw the passage of equal opportunity laws, support for equal rights amendments, and greater equality for homosexuals. I don't know why that just sounded funny to me. Libra also signifies a love for luxury, and early 1980s ushered in a period of opulence and ostentation. When Pluto is in Libra, the planet's personal influence promotes a deep need to seek harmony and cooperation. Its negative side brings unforeseen problems and disruption in close relationships.
Yeah. Very trusting, those Libras.
Yeah. To a fault.
To a fault. Everyone's good. It's like Pisces. I feel like Libra and Pisces, sometimes I just want to put them in the same basket and let them be friends, because they're probably both equally as good.
Yeah.
Sometimes. All right, Scorpio. So this one, again, is, I feel like, more of the era of you can change, you can shift. You don't have to do what your parents did, A lot of millennials are entrepreneurs. We shifted and we changed. We transformed into, doing what we want, being selfish. I think of Scorpio as a very selfish sign. And so when Pluto, who also rules Scorpio, is in its own sign, I think it can become very selfish, and not that it's a bad thing, because I mean, look at what people have created. I mean, people are working from home, they don't have to go out into the world. I mean, that's more, we're going to talk about that, that's more Sagittarius energy too, but it's the end of the Scorpio, beginning of Sagittarius, where we're more free to do as we please. And not that Scorpio is like this very free sign, but the fact that it's ruled by Pluto and it's in Pluto, it's the same, and its energy is magnified. This could also be a really heavy place for somebody, or for, addiction. Addiction's really heavy here. Death, not to say like physical death, but something inside of you. I feel like with my generation, what died with us was this this perception that you have to do things a certain way. Like we really created a way of working differently. I have friends that have clothing lines. They're like, oh, I like this, and they throw their brand on it and they started selling it, and now they're making a ton of money. And I'm just like, that wasn't something before our generation that really happened a lot. It may have happened, it may have been like 5 out of, like Nike, and then you think of like those brands. But I have probably like almost 10 friends that started their own businesses and that are just killing it. And so that was a generation of Scorpio. It was, they're strong, they have really good intuition. That's one of the things that really drives off this, is the intuition to make the right decisions, or to choose to move forward or not. But it also, again, addiction runs really heavy through this. I would say, sometimes the emotional difficulties of life really push this generation to, doctors prescribing certain drugs, or, turning to like, oh, well, I can't focus, so I need this pill, and oh, I'm too focused, so I need this pill, and I, need to calm down, so I need this, and I always have to do this before I fly. We're that generation. Like, you know what I mean? Like we use substance a lot for our issues, and not that there's anything wrong about that. I'm not throwing shade on that. I'm just saying it wasn't like that back in the day, but it can also lead to addiction. I have a friend that won't fly without a Xanax. She just won't do it. And so now every time she flies, she's like, I need a Xanax. I'm like, maybe you don't. Maybe, it's been a few years. Maybe you could try it. She's like, oh, fuck no. Like, I need my Xanax. Like, she became codependent on that, and she's probably fine to fly now, but because she's done that, and it's this addiction, and this, like, she puts the two together. So there's that too. Scorpio doesn't have this need to so much be in charge, but there is a strong sense of power. Scorpio wants the power, wants to be very powerful. And so this is a place where they can become really powerful, but then they get knocked off their little pedestal, and then they have to rebuild. And that's really hard. I feel like that hits Scorpios harder than anything, to lose their power, because I think in their mind they think they're doing the best with it, but it's not always. Like Scorpio, Pluto together sometimes can be a little nightmare, a little too powerful, and so
Yeah.
But I'd say overall this was a good generation. Kudos for us guys. We really changed some things. We shifted, as a lot of our generation shifted the way people think and the way that they work, and I honestly love it. Here for it.
Oh, okay. So this was interesting as well. The Pluto in the sign of Scorpio coincided with George Orwell's predictions of the totalitarian government and the loss of individual rights in his famous book, 1984. Pluto is extremely powerful in Scorpio, the sign it rules, and this is the period of turmoil and revolution. During this era, the Berlin Wall fell, the Soviet Union disbanded and became Commonwealth, Iran turned militantly conservative, Yugoslavia was torn apart by warring Serbs and Croats. Scorpio is a sign of destruction, and Pluto's transit was rife with worldwide terrorism. Pluto's link to the underworld was seen in the rise of the international drug trade, cocaine. The sign of Scorpio rules sexuality, birth, death, and rebirth. Pluto's journey gave rise to test tube babies, surrogate parenting, cloned animals, and all manner of genetic engineering. The AIDS virus became rampant, underlying the themes of sex and death. Pluto's personal influence in Scorpio produces individuals with penetrating minds and strong wills. These people are imaginative and passionate, possess psychic ability, and can be ruthless about getting their own way.
I'm just going to go out on a whim here and guess that this is also when the Black Widow was created and evolved, because they mate and then they kill. I mean, it's like the perfect Scorpio, Pluto. I'm going to assume they were first discovered and assume that it was around this time because there's no sex and death,
Yeah.
like, just fun fact. I have Black Widows all around, so I'm like, oh, they're like little pets. I admire them, and I think they're beautiful.
I love that about you.
Huh?
I love that about you and for you. I am the opposite.
I know. My husband doesn't kill them now. He puts them in a thing and takes them outside, but he's like, oh god.
Yeah.
It's fine. They're not going to hurt you. They're not aggressive unless they think they're going to die. So, or if you're their mate, which we know how that is.
Yeah.
All right. Sagittarius, Pluto. So this is the generation of my children, and I watch them closely and the things they go through and how they do things. They're very my older two children. This is the generation of my older two children. They're they question a lot of things, and they constantly are trying to learn more. Like my daughter she was watching YouTube. Like if you think about it, at a young age, learning hair tutorials. She was doing her hair really funky and crazy in the 3rd grade. And to me, that's her way of learning. And my son really started becoming a gamer and really into learning how to build his own gaming system. He's like, well, how do I build mine? And I know it's progressed more as we go further along, but I feel like he was one of the first little generations to do that and to really create and build and try to understand things. When you take Sagittarius energy, it's travel and higher education and philosophical ideas, and you put that into a place of a planet of transformation and power. I think that this really just shows you become powerful by the knowledge that you possess. That's where it really kind of shifts, and it's more about, okay, the more you know, the more you understand, the better, better placement you're in. And then it's also of travel. This is an area of traveling and moving and gaining something each place that you travel, and just really holding on to that. So it can be where you hold your power is through knowledge, and also where you have to rebuild is through knowledge. If you write a book and it's very knowledgeable, but then certain new information comes out, and then it's kind of you have to retract, and you have to go back and rebuild. So that happens a lot. That happens for a lot of people. They research something, they go down the rabbit hole, they learn a lot, and then new information can really fuck up your day because it's oh, well, now that's not as accurate. So we retract a lot. We have to go back and through a lot of things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I see it a lot. It happens a lot. So that's just the Sagittarius energy when you mesh it with Pluto. Doesn't flow, I would say, as easily, but it's not as hard, I would say, as Libra.
You want to know something so crazy? In 2008 is when I became a flight attendant.
Ooh, and you started traveling and transforming, and
it changed my whole life.
Yes, I love that. Well,
and I think that's when I wrote my first book that no one knows about.
I'm gonna have to look into this. Well, and you think about the stock market that crashed in 2008, it was okay, we shifted in what we thought was working and the best way to go about things, and it wasn't. So then we had to rebuild in a way of okay, we can't just give loans to anyone. They can't repay. We can't have these payment plans to be so this is your payment plan, and then it jumped triple the next. There was a lot of learning and rebuilding that we in that time I feel really kind of grasped onto oh, okay, we went too much. We did too much. Sagittarius is super extra, and they went too much. We had to retract.
step back a little bit.
We enter conservative Capricorn, and we all pulled back a lot.
Yeah. This one was when it a short time, so it was only 13 years in Sagittarius. Let's see. Sagittarius is the sign of truth, open knowledge, and the years prior, the turn of the millenniums, are characterized as the information age. Television reported events in full detail almost before they even took place. The web links us to information within seconds. Endless streams of memoirs have left no one's secrets untold. In keeping with full disclosure, we witnessed a U.S. president's impeachment and acquittal that began with the exposure of his extramarital sexual affair. Sagittarius also represents foreign, lad, and far-flung places and through the computer and internet. Pluto has transformed the concept of distance. International trade and business takes place in seconds. Retailers sell to the public directly through the computer, and email instantly connects people on the opposite sides of the earth. New values in philosophy, religion, education, foreign affairs, and all areas under Sag's influence. Sagittarius is the sign of freedom, adventure, and exploration. There should be a new spirit of friendliness and spiritual sharing among nations. Europe has already joined in common market. Pluto in Sag brings deep hope, profound understanding. Its negative influences towards impractical extremes, but the optimism and enthusiasm that characterizes this transit should make this an uplifting time for human being everywhere. So this is where obviously the book ended. The rest is what she thought would happen, kind of.
Yes. Well, and I just realized what time it is. So let's maybe not. I mean, we made it through. I was like, we're not going to have enough time. We're going to have too much time to talk about all this. So I'm just going to kind of cap through these. This is like coming soon generation, like next. Well, this one is my Salem. She's this Capricorn Pluto. But we'll just kind of briefly run through them. These are all accessible for everyone to read. So if you want to read the fun history facts, because I do think they're fun. But now that we're short on time, we should probably just kind of go through. Capricorn, again, we had a lot of fun during Sagittarius, loosey-goosey, everybody just kind of, living their best life. But that is how things get messy, and that is also how things really crumble. And we did crumble in 2008. We crumbled, we rebuilt. Unfortunately, we see maybe another one happening in 2024. So the irony is maybe we should stay in Capricorn, Pluto for a long time, because it seemed to be building. Businesses were thriving. Everything kind of really took off. And if you think about it, Capricorn is known for business. They are known for career and work. And when you take a good career placement or good work and you put it in the entire structure of a country, it runs, not perfectly, but it's structured and it does work, and it's been working. And now we're seeing that it's not working, that it's starting to crumble. So here we go again, crumbling, rebuilding, that's happening. But Capricorn, I would say, is probably a really good placement for the Capricorn Pluto, because Capricorns are strong, they're resilient, they're ruled by Saturn. They already got the shit end of the stick. So they're just going to push through. They're strong, they're survivors. So it should make you happy if you have a new baby, because they got this thing going for them. Aquarius. Aquarius, Pluto, I'm going to say, is probably going to be pretty interesting, to be honest. It's this is what you were needing information on, huh? I was like, no,
this is where it stops.
The book ended. I totally thought it was just for the book that we were talking about. And now I'm putting it together. When you said it stopped, I'm like, oh God, she needed this. She really did need this last night. But you did great. You did amazing. So I'm just going to run through Aquarius and Pluto. When you think of Aquarius, you think humanitarian, you think structures of that sort, friends and friendships, and really, I would say, high energy of doing things. It is a fixed sign, and it's also what else I was going to say about it? It's a fixed sign. It doesn't really budge. So this might be a good time for structure. It will really help us create some systems of maybe this is where we really start to end world hunger or do something really big for the world and the economy, because the economy is shifting. We all know that something's happening, and we all know that it's hard to afford a house. It's hard to live. So maybe we get together and we start building these gardens for neighborhoods. And I feel like that's really the area that we're headed in is so, I mean, homesteading is so trendy right now. It's so cool. It's the cool thing. It's almost like someone's telling us to shift because we're not going to keep making it, whether that be the government or that be, you know, social media is driving that trend right now. But I really do think there's a reason for it. I do think that we're lacking the materials or the, you know, the food, everything. We're starting to grow to where we're not able to sustain our life. So best thing to do is to create a generation of homesteaders and make it a cool thing and put it out there. And I love that. I mean, I'm here for, I want chickens. I want to go. I didn't want this until, you know, a few years back. So I know that it's definitely something that's shifted in the media. Get down, Zabby. Sorry, my cat's being crazy. But I think this is the time of that. I think this is the time of us being self-sufficient, maybe coming together, communities really coming together, because we're going to need each other, you know. We're gonna really, I feel like in the next few years, looks like 20, this one's in Aquarius for 20 years, it stays where it needs to for a minute. I think we're really going to rely heavily on each other in a community, and I think it's going to be beautiful. I think it's going to be hard, but I think it's necessary. So
I literally just had this talk with my friend last night.
Did
like,
you?
Yeah. So like 2 nights ago, I had like the most insane meditation about basically the next steps for humanity are coming in. And it was like a whole grid activation. It was a really wild journey, but it was previewing the Aquarius age.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's going to be, beautiful. I think it's going to be
definitely hard, but it's going to be cool.
Oh yeah, it's going to be hard. We're
Change is always hard.
Yeah, but I mean in the best way. I'm excited for it.
Me too. We need it.
Yeah. And then Pisces 2043 to 2067. Again, this one stays there for a minute. This one's going to be feeling. This is another feeler one. So this is going to be true intuition. The power that we're going to see really rise here is going to be like spiritual. It's going to be very spiritual. It's going to be very uplifting. I really believe, because I think Pisces are always so confused. I think this is the time where the alignment, the Pisces and the way that they think is really going to make sense. Because right now, Pisces, they don't make sense. I mean, if you have heavy Pisces placement, strong Pisces energy in your chart, the world doesn't understand you. You don't understand the world. It's really difficult. But I really truly believe this is going to be where it aligns and it connects. And we're going to be like, man, we should have been doing this the Pisces way. That makes no sense all these years. Like, I truly believe that that's what this time is going to come for. And so it's going to be different. It's not going to be the humanitarian, although it will transition into that. But Pisces, for the most part, Pisces is spiritual. It's also, I was like, maybe I don't touch on this, but I mean, it is the place of loss. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean death per se, but things go away. Things are no longer. And what that looks like at that time, I don't know. I'm not like in the future looking, but I mean, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be different, especially as it goes through the houses and especially what you have in your chart. My daughter is a Pisces. I'm very excited for this time for her because she's going to be 20s. Wait, she's born in 2023. So yeah, she's going to be approaching her 20s when this happens. And I think it's going to be magical. I hope, I mean, surely I'll be here to see it, but I can't wait to see when this transitions and to watch the Pisces flourish. So maybe that's why I'm a Pisces, because I was really shooting for an Aquarius. The universe was like, no, we're going to give you the most emotional. Pluto retrograde, really, retrograde, we know everything doesn't flow. It goes backwards. You think of Pluto and I don't want to read all this. You guys can read this, kind of the structure of life just doesn't work. It's not flowing. You have troubles with, power. You can have troubles with like rebuilding, or maybe it's the fact that everything crumbles during the Pluto retrograde. Everything you built crumbles during this time. You could struggle to rebuild. It's just a hard time for rebuilding, becoming powerful, or in your power. If you already possess a powerful role of some sort, it can be very challenging. So
And that I saw there was we have some Pluto retrograde action next year for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I mean, the retrogrades should never scare you. Just be aware that like Mercury retrograde, when you're like, oh my God, nothing's working, like it just prepares you for a little frustration. So be prepared for it and channel that energy. Be like, okay, I'm gonna give myself more time during this time to do X, Y, and Z, because I know shit's not gonna flow very smoothly. Just prepare yourself for it. It's okay. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable, but just try to go with the flow.
Which is a good reminder that tomorrow is the first day of Mercury retrograde.
Yay!
Yeah. Just watch your technology, save your documents, and reread everything before you sign it. And make backup plans for travel. And maybe block your exes, whatever.
That's a good one for Mercury.
Yeah. I was like, I block my exes on the phone, but I'll still let them watch my story because you're welcome.
You're still interested, clearly, but
Yeah, I like to let them know how happy I am and how cute I am.
You're like, things are thriving over here. I don't know about your shit life, but that's thriving.
Yes.
I want you to know.
We went a little past time, and I actually wasn't sure we were going to have enough material.
I was trying to do that planets and houses today. Like, we're going to have time to do planets and houses. I'm just going to put them, and then we didn't have time to get everything prepared. So I was like, I'll just, talk, do what I do. I spend most of the time thinking about what I'm trying to say. So it's fine. I'll emphasize on that more.
We made it. So next week is the part 2 of Pluto, and that'll be the houses and the aspects, a brief overview of the aspects. So that's going to be a really cool one and a great way to end. And then we have maybe a little special surprise for December 26th for the last Tuesday of the year. And then the New Year's Day, we'll be back with a fresh look and a new date and time. So thank you for everyone watching. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Elle. I will see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye.